Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We're going to be talking today about news that broke yesterday. I haven't really seen many people talking about, but it is the news of Northwood Space, a new space company that is created by a former Disney child star. Her name is Bridgit Mendler, and they're kind of like trotting her out there as this like female boss babe version of Elon Musk. And it's just all very creepy with a clearly coordinated like push to promote her and this company. And the idea of her is like this female in STEM, like women in STEM, boss babe, when it's very clear she doesn't really know anything about this, in my opinion, and it's mainly her husband's project. So, anyways, let's just go ahead and go over this. I made this graphic for it because I thought, like they put this out there as if it's an organically occurring thing, right? This Disney child star turned space CEO, and she just so happens to be related to Christine Blasey Ford, who is her aunt. Everyone knows Blasey Ford from the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings and her lies. She's a CIA psychologist from Stanford. And then, we look into the background of the people who are backing this and who are part of this company, Northwood Space, and they have all kinds of government connections that glow like the sun, especially her husband, Griffin Cleverly. So we will go ahead and get into this. Here was the announcement from yesterday. Bridgit Mendler is officially a CEO as she launches her startup, Northwood Space. And I'm sorry, guys, but every time I hear Northwood, I just think of Operation Northwood. Like, how fitting, right? Northwood aims to create satellite ground stations that are designed with mass production and customer flexibility first in mind. So it's New York Magazine described it as she wants to create her own Skynet, which I found disturbing. But let's go to the announcement here. CNBC got the exclusive. Bridgit Mendler is adding space CEO to her list of actress, singer, and songwriter. Introducing Northwood Space, which aims to mass produce ground stations and is backed by all of these Silicon Valley intelligence connected venture capital firms. She says, expect the unexpected. So excited to announce our 6.3 million seed funding led by Founders Fund and A16Z with participation from Also Capital, Long Journey VC, Box Group, and Humba VC. At Northwood, we have our sights on building a data highway between Earth and space. We are designing shared ground infrastructure from first principles to expand access to space. Like, what does this even mean? We have a lot of work ahead of us, but that's the fun part. If you like building quickly and seeing your work deployed in locations around the globe with real impact, we want you at Northwood. So we'll get into the CNBC article in a moment, but that was a bunch of fluff. Like, it's a bunch of nonsense, really. Like, and we're to believe that she goes from being the Disney child star to then she goes to the MIT Media Lab as a PhD student. She's a director fellow and research assistant or whatever. Then she goes to Harvard Law School. Now she's a space CEO. Guys, like, this is not organic. It's not normal. These people are given assistance. They're backed by other people, and then they're trotted out there and presented to us as like, oh, you could do this too. No, it's just ridiculous. If you or I were starting our own startup company, you would not get 6 million seed funding. Like, it just wouldn't happen. If I'm starting a company, like, no one's going to give me that seed funding. The reason they got it is, well, we'll show you the connections they have to the intelligence community, which is who's really behind the company. Let's be honest. Okay, here's the CNBC article. Disney star turned space CEO Bridgit Mendler launches satellite data startup backed by major VCs. Now, getting into the story here, I don't want to go over all of this, but so she now wants to change Bridget, the Disney's child star. She wants to change how satellite data reaches the ground. The former Disney star and singer, who has done shows like Good Luck Charlie, Wizards of Waverly Place, and The Click, has spent the past several years studying at MIT and Harvard Law School. Oh, and when she started working for the FCC, she just happened to fall in love with space law. Space law. You're supposed to believe that. By way of her self-described quote-unquote engineering household and time at the FCC's new Space Bureau. Okay, so she was given that job, working at the Space Bureau, where she, quote, completely fell in love with space law, because that doesn't sound boring at all. Mendler is launching a new career in the space industry as CEO of startup Northwood Space. Womp womp. She says, quote, space is getting easier along so many different dimensions, but still the actual exercise of sending data to and from space is difficult. You have difficulty finding an access point for contacting your satellite, unquote. I don't think she really knows anything about this. Like I said, this is her husband's thing, and clearly she's just kind of being given the title of CEO, and she has been given the talking points. So she's got the talking points down. Now, rather than build rockets or satellites, Northwood aims to mass-produce ground stations, also known as teleports. Ground stations are the typically large and often circular antennas that connect satellites in space. Already, Northwood is attracting high-profile venture investors, with $6 million in initial funding raised from investors like Founders Fund, Andreessen Horowitz, and Also Capital. Mark Andreessen at Andreessen Horowitz, what an absolute clown. He pretends to be like one of these, I care about free speech nonsense peoples, but go look at him. He gives money. He was giving money to the WeWork clown, Adam Neumann, and even after he ran that company into the ground and stole millions, like him basically just grifted off of it, ran it into the ground, he wants to give him more money for a new fake grift for him. It's just stunning to me, honestly. Wow. Mendler's building Northwood with two co-founders, the startup's CTO, her husband, Griffin Cleverly, who glows like the sun, as well as head of software, Shayura Luthra. I'm probably saying his name wrong. He also glows like the sun, and we'll get into their backgrounds in a minute, but they even say it here. Cleverly and Luthra spent time at Lockheed Martin, where they both worked as engineers. Griffin Cleverly also spent time working at the Mitre Corporation, working on communications. So Mitre is out here in Northern Virginia. It's in McLean. It is essentially an intelligence cutout. You guys remember Nellie Orr from the Spygate saga, Bruce Orr's wife, who worked for Fusion? Yeah, she also worked for Mitre, if I recall correctly. The latter spent nearly 4 years building the ground station network of satellite imagery venture Capella Space. Northwood's name stems from a lake in New Hampshire, where Mendler said the idea for the company originated while she was spending time with her family during the C-19 lockdowns. Oh, please. X to doubt, my friend. If anyone believes that, this is like the absurd story that Google was started in like a garage or something, like Sergey Brin and Larry Page just created it out of their garage. No, it has its origins in a joint CIA-NSA research grant. Yeah, that's Google. And so this is no different. It's the same type of thing. Quote, while everyone else was making their sourdough starters, we were building antennas out of random crap we could find at Home Depot and receiving data from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration satellites, Mendler said. Oh, please. These very wealthy, well-connected people want you to believe that while you were locked down and people were trying anything to make money, since half of them couldn't work and they started doing some crafting DIY side hustles, she brags that, oh, I was doing the same thing. Yeah, okay, please. You were going to Home Depot and just scrounging up these little parts and building No, you are not building antennas with random parts from Home Depot. You guys are incredibly rich. You have people that you pay to do these things for you. Stop lying. I hate it when they do this. Now, moving on to the real person behind this, the husband cleverly emphasized the space industry's growth means there's now a colossal amount of data trying to travel to and from satellites. Quote, we need an approach so those companies can get the data down reliably and in the quantities they need, he told CNBC. Oh, and look, they can create their own monopoly in the process and take control and monopolize an entire industry. Isn't that interesting? Northwood aims to build ground stations designed with fast production and deployment flexibility in mind. Luthra said they want to deliver ground stations within days, not months, so satellite operators don't spend time reconfiguring their networks. The startup plans to target services for satellites in low Earth orbit initially for companies that don't want to spend the time or money to build their own networks. Northwood is looking to resolve bottlenecks it sees in shared ground stations, making it difficult for customers to find availability on existing teleports. Now, they want to be like an Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure. That's what they said. Quote, traditionally, when I wanted an antenna or site to use, I would have to ask, do you have availability, or is it already rented out to everyone else in the world? A lot of times, very key sites were already rented out, Luthra says. Northwood aims for its customers to have a similar experience to those who rent server capacity from Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure, avoiding the capital expenditure of building and operating their own servers. So don't buy your own servers, don't build your own servers, get them from us, and that way we owe them and we're sucking up all of that data. Yeah, that's really what the goal is. And so I just, let's stop pretending. Another thing that I found strange, and, this is not to knock being a foster parent at all. I don't want it to be misconstrued. But the timing of the announcement that you've adopted a 4-year-old boy, Bridgit puts this out yesterday when they announced that she's the CEO of a space company. She also says, oh, and I'm also a mom now. I adopted a 4-year-old boy. And again, I have questions about, the genuineness of this. Like, if you actually cared about the boy that you adopted, why would you wait 2 years to tell people that you'd adopted him? Why did you wait until it was expedient for your public image? That's the issue I take with it. Now, just to show you some of the stupid comments of people who are not putting together what's going on, the average consumer, that gets all of their information from what the TV tells them and what influencers tell them. They make dumb comments like, oh, she's going to be the female Elon Musk and will save the world. This one says, Bridgit Mendler will be president one day. I can feel it. And this one, not putting any of this together, says, I can't get over how Bridgit Mendler truly had a career trajectory like no other. From Disney, being a Disney child star, to Harvard Law School and MIT, to being a space CEO. Living legend. It's like, how do you guys not see that that's not normal or organic? Hello, that's not the real world. But these people don't put it together, and they don't understand either that here these people are millionaires. They're laughing at you all. You could never get this special treatment. Oh, but let's all act like she's some great person because she's a Disney child star and a singer that you like. They allow stuff like that to influence their decisions. It's like when I see people, I see the Swifties calling Taylor Swift mother. They go, mother is mothering. She has no children. She's a 30-year-old woman with no children. Why are you calling her mother? Why do you say she's mothering? What does it even mean? But this is the stupidity of the average individual online. Now, I don't need to, there's nothing really I wanted to cover in here. Particularly, I just wanted to include the background information so that you guys, if you want to screenshot it, there may be something in there that stands out to you as far as her background goes. I did want to bring up the activism and philanthropy, because it does say in here she's been involved in pro-social green initiatives for environmental issues, which will be interesting in a minute when we get to her husband and his family and their connections. She also was involved in Save the Children. She did a cyberbullying campaign. I know she worked with Target. She did a campaign with Target. She did some stuff for the Disney, for Disney. She did a video, "We Can Change the World," or a promotional thing to raise money for UNICEF. Let's see. She hosted the We Day of Free the Children Foundation that wanted to build schools for underprivileged kids in Canada and the United States. So I wanted to put that in there. I don't know about those organizations, but they may be good. I know there are some anti-trafficking organizations, though, that are actually simply operating as cover for actual predators. So that's something to keep in mind. And of course, just to show that it does talk about her marriage here and her adoption. Now, this is from her old days as a Disney child star and her days as a, I guess you could say, a pop musician. New York Magazine is the ones that said that she is creating her own Skynet. Even if this is tongue-in-cheek, it's still such a dorky but also creepy thing to say. New York Magazine, Bridgit Mendler is one step closer to inventing time travel as she's begun her own Skynet. Mendler announced the formation of her startup, Northwood Space, which will manufacture ground stations that act as a data highway between Earth and space. So yeah, she's going to be monopolizing space law, creating data stations and server farms where her company gets all that information, sucks it up. I mean, I find this deeply disturbing, and also her talk of like global governance and this and that. Here's her page from MIT Media Lab, MIT Center for Constructive Communication, just like how her husband was in communications he was working in communications at the Mitre Corporation, a literally clown cutout. Bridgit is a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab with a focus on technologies that support inclusive, quote unquote, whatever that means, and collaborative governance and citizen engagement. Before pursuing her degree, Mendler was a platinum songwriter and recording artist and leading TV actress for multiple television network series, including Disney Channel award-winning Good Luck Charlie, NBC's Undateable. Bridgit is a former artist ambassador for Save the Children, where she advocated for early childhood education legislation. Interacting online with her fan base, she claims, inspired her interest in social platforms as a means for bringing more voices, experience, and expertise to government decision-making. Why is she involved in the government? Nobody elected her or her husband, or his family for that matter. Now, the website itself for Northwood Space is pretty boring. There's not much on it. You can go look at it yourself. It's northwoodspace.com. I put together this graphic, though, just to show you the connections here between the three so-called founders of Northwood Space, Griffin Cleverly, Shira Luthra, and Bridgit Mendler. Griffin, her husband, worked at Mitre and Lockheed Martin. Luthra worked at Lockheed Martin, and he did time at Booz Allen Hamilton, as you all know, another intelligence contractor and essentially cut out. Bridgit was at Disney, MIT Media Lab, at Harvard Law School. She worked for the FCC for a stint. I think her husband did as well. And of course, her aunt is Christine Blasey Ford, the CIA psychologist who worked at Stanford. Now, getting into the connection there, Disney Channel star Mendler is related to Dr. Christine Blasey Ford and studied at MIT and Harvard. After hearing about Mendler's scholarly post-Disney life, fans were interested to learn the Ready or Not singer is actually the niece of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford. In 2018, Ford testified against then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh after accusing him of doing inappropriate things to her when they were children attending Maryland High School in the early 80s. After Ford's testimony, Mendler stood in solidarity with her aunt, posting a message on social media showing support from the family. In an Instagram post from October 2018, Mendler shared, quote, "I am amazed by her courage, an example I've been able to witness consistently for the majority of my life, and now the world gets to know her as well." Oh yeah, we got to know her, and she's not at all as you describe her. You know, she did not come off as professional, as compassionate or empathetic or anything like that. Here's her Twitter post, though. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, or Aunt Chrissy as I know her, is the person who patiently helped me with my college application. Oh, is that how you got into the MIT Media Lab? Is that how you got into Harvard Law School? Is that how you got into the FCC? She was the first to give me a hug when I saw my family on vacation. Please remember her humanity. This is a message from our family. Hashtag Dear Professor Ford. And so she goes on here. As members of Christine Blasey Ford's family, we wish to express our support for our sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, aunt, and dear friend. She is married to our brother, son, and uncle, Russell Ford, and is a loyal, reliable, involved family member of the most impeccable character. Please, okay? Now, this is like the picture where you're supposed to think that this is like another Sergey Brin, Larry Page in their garage nonsense. So funny how they do this. Here's her LinkedIn, which is very sparse and has clearly been created just to launch her company. She's only got 2 posts on LinkedIn at all. You can see here, though, her background. And these are the only posts she has. One from 11 months back, and then from yesterday. 2 posts in total on her LinkedIn. Now here is her husband, Griffin Cleverly. Here is his LinkedIn. He's the CTO at Northwood. And you can see this guy glows like the sun. Here he was at as an engineer at Lockheed Martin. He was at MIT as well. He's at Mitre, John Hopkins Whiting School of Engineering, UCLA. Let's see. Is there anything else? Causes down here. I wanted to show the causes at the bottom. It says economic empowerment, politics, poverty alleviation, science, and technology. We'll get to his sisters in a moment, and I'll show you their backgrounds. But this is the final co-founder, so-called, of the Northwood Space Company, Luthra, who worked with Cleverly at Lockheed Martin, but also did a stint at Booz Allen Hamilton. As you can see here, also, he has a lot of schooling. Now, moving on to the sister. This is Cleverly's sister, Dana Cleverly. He has 3 sisters, and they're all seemingly involved in sustainable development, climate change, and that kind of activism. She discusses that. His other sister, Willow Cleverly, same thing. She works for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. She says here that she graduated from the School of Public Health with data analysis, research, writing, and operations experience in public health and other settings. And she is looking forward to utilizing her skills coupled with her passion to provide health equity. What does health equity mean? Your guess is as good as mine. And then Adrienne Cleverly, his other sister, she worked for JP Morgan Chase and seemingly does work for the United Nations. She's part of the Net Zero Banking Alliance. So this is climate change nonsense. She says here, Let me see. Let me get my glasses on to read this, which I just dropped. Oh my goodness. Get it together, lady. Okay. As a Lai Walton Innovators Fellow at Conservation International, CI, I'm working with the Conservation Finance Division to develop Conservation Finance Innovation and Replication Program. The program will innovate and replicate new business and investment models to facilitate increased private sector investment to nature-based climate solutions. What does that mean? In addition to my work at CI, I'm a consultant for the United Nations Environment Program Finance Initiative. What? Where I support climate change mitigation efforts in the banking sector via the Net Zero Banking Alliance. So when you're looking at the banks putting out ESG and all of that nonsense, that's coming from stuff like this, okay? And then she also has a website where she writes advocacy stuff, and she writes policy proposals. She says, in my spare time, I serve as a member of the board for the Los Robles Children's Choir, and I'm a writer and creator of Post Industry, a site that distills complex climate and environmental news, policy analysis, and advocacy into easily understood concepts for non-technical audiences. So that's sort of like climate propaganda. Now here is a picture of Bridgit Mendler and her husband Griffin Cleverly at their wedding. Those are his parents around them, I believe. So that would be his father Philip and his mother Carrie. And again, that whole family glows like the sun. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I find it very concerning, and I also find it insulting and annoying that we have to pretend that we've got women in STEM and a boss babe space CEO, a female Elon Musk creating her own Skynet. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't sound very good to me, but I'm interested to know, what do you guys think of this? Anyways, that's all. Have a good day.